Okay, so today we're going to talk about a few things that will progress from the last video where we spoke about trends. So in this one we'll talk about, structure, which we basically covered anyway, um, and I guess building off of that, so break of structures, strong highs and strong lows. And then um, I think this is like very basic, but I think it's a good starting point to like start marking it out. Um, so first of all, let's talk about break of structure. Well, it is exactly what it is, a break of structure. Um, or where you like, or continuation. It's another. So how I like to say, so you have two types as well. You have a break of structure and a failed break of structure. Now both are relevant, both mean something. So I'm gonna draw this. This is one here, and um, now so basically what break of structure is where price has made a um, higher high and then a higher low and then it's breaking up, so it goes up. So this continuation, break of structure, same thing. Um, so now when we look at this, so this is our break of structure here. So we can put a, this stands for break of structure here. So now we're going to look at this. So this is the highest point, and we're going to see how much of the candle has been consumed by this break of structure. So um, a failed, let me do that. So there's my rectangles. Okay, so we can use this halfway. So this would be considered a break of structure. This would be considered a failed break of structure. So the highest point has to be, when it comes back up, has to be surpassed by over 50% of the candle. So, we can easily see, because we got this halfway line here, the halfway line is, so break of structure, because it is surpassed more than 50% here. Failed break of structure, because it didn't break through as much. And I like to see it as, let's say um, you have a house. Yeah, this is kind of dumb, but you have a house and you plant a tree. Yeah, in that. Yeah. When it breaks through the roof, the more it can break through, the stronger the tree. Yeah. So the if it only broke through the roof of the house by not so much, it's not a very strong tree, is it? Whereas if it's past, heaps, that's a pretty strong tree. And so when we look at trends, and we look at this, this is showing the strength of the trend here, which if we look at it, it's gone up pretty high. We are on the hourly time frame, but it's gone up pretty high. But a failed break of structure, maybe It's a breakup structure because it's past more than 50%. Um, here, okay. This is what we would consider a failed breakup structure because it didn't. This stands for failed breakup structure because it didn't surpass. And then so what happened? Oh, it came back down. Yeah, and went down pretty far. It wasn't, and then we sort of. So it shows that, you know, the strength of the trend is getting weaker. Um, whereas like if we look at these are only tiny, but that's a breakup structure. I won't really dig into that because it's a bit messy there, but yeah, breakup structure. So you can see the relevance here. Like this is a good. Oh, well, that's not even. Because we have a change of character and then. Anyway, so I hope that makes sense. The breakup structure is when the price is moving above the previous higher high and is greater than 50% of the candle. If it's not, then it's a failed breakup structure and the risk is increased because it's not as strong. The trend isn't as strong. Yeah. So, next we'll look at strong highs and strong lows, which at first, like to me anyway, when I first learned, were kind of hard to understand. But then the more you look at it, think about it, the easier it gets. So here's our uptrend, here's our downtrend. Okay, now, um, so this, so this is our uptrend. We can tell there's an uptrend because we have increased like higher highs and higher lows. Yeah. So now this here is a strong low, and this here is a weak high. Okay, so the reason for this is because price came up, yep, formed a higher high, came down, yep, and then pushed up. Okay, so price was able to go higher than this, making this a weak high. Yeah, when price came down, it wasn't able to go down far enough to push past this level here, making this a strong low. So then when price, came back up and it pushed higher than this, weak high. Yeah, it didn't go, obviously we haven't done it, but this is a weak high. Oh, sorry, what am I doing? This is a strong low. Yeah. Now, I hope that makes sense. So then when we look at this, but on a downtrend, we do the opposite, which for me took a minute to get my head around. But anyway, strong high. Yeah. Price came down lower than this, weak low. It's weak because price was able to move past it. When you look at trends and structure, we're always looking how strong is it? Because ultimately, the stronger it is, the less riskier it is. We're looking at breakup structures. For me, I'm more likely to take the trades with the strong break of structures than a weak, because I know that it's a strong trend. It doesn't mean that it won't reverse, the market can do whatever it likes. But you can use certain things to help um, get a better understanding and increase your odds. Yeah, doesn't mean it's not impossible for it to reverse and go the other way after you make a trade. But you can look at things, and that's why we also look at indicators. They don't tell us what's happening, but they can give us an indication. It's literally in the name. Anyway, strong high because um, price came down and wasn't able to break this. Yeah, weak low, strong high, weak low. Yeah. So now we've got that, sort of sorted out. Let's see how we can use that to our advantage. So let's say price is coming up like this. Yeah. And then it does this. Yeah. Okay. So now, so we have we can mark out our structures. Yeah, we've got a change of character here. Okay. Strong, low. Yeah. For these ones. Yeah. Now, when it comes up, price came down, further than this, making this a weak low. Because it wasn't able to hold price. Price came down further. This then became a strong high, as well um, as well as this strong high, strong high. Now we're looking. Let's say we haven't seen this half yet. Okay, we haven't seen this yet. And so then what we'll do is we'll have a look at these. These are now, because these are strong, they're points of interest. So let's say we draw a box and we just draw it along, draw it along. These are unmitigated, which means they haven't been used. Price hasn't come to this point since it was last at it. Yeah, so we've drawn our boxes across. Then we're gonna look for take a trade. So although you might think okay, it's a downtrend, why would we be taking longs? Well, you don't have to be in a long forever. This is for simply day traders who are, you know, within minutes or whatever. So it's coming, price is coming down. Point of interest. Yeah, follow along. Oh look, price has come into that area. Long, sell. Yeah, we have another point of interest. Our price came into it. Buy, sell, and then same thing. Obviously, this is not always the case, and like this is not, but this is something you could use. I wouldn't say necessarily just go straight off of this, but let's say Um, yeah, like it's in something you can use. It's strong highs and strong lows is something you can use. Now, let's say we're looking at this. Yeah, where do you think out of these three the more relevant one is gonna be? Where what one is likely? Because this might come through and uh, go like that for all we know, and then you've missed it, or it might do that, then you've missed it. So when we look at this, we need to single out what ones are more beneficial. So I wouldn't go straight after a change of character. You could use this one, um, but what I would like, so that leaves these two. I wouldn't use one straight after a change of character. But when we look at these two, we might look for other things. Let's say that, so we've marked out the imbalance, which we'll talk about in another video. Um, and this one has a fair value gap or something like that. These are all terms and aspects you can look at within the Discord. Yeah, so um, we'll go further into that next time. But anyway, let's go back to what we've covered. So, looking at structure, uptrend, marking out all of the breakup structures. Yeah, marking them out. Yeah, you might even put the time frame. So for us, we're on the 1 hourly. Yeah. Um, on a 1 hourly. So just go through and do that. Um, and if it's a failed breakup structure, you just put an F at the front for failed. Yeah, so we've looked at that. So breakup structure is a lot stronger than a failed breakup structure. Yeah, and how do we identify if the candle, when it passes the previous higher high, is greater than 50% past that point? And then we looked at strong highs and strong lows. So in an uptrend, you have weak highs at the top, strong lows at the bottom, and reverse in the other direction. So weak lows, strong highs at the top. Um, yeah, and just see, how you go with that kind of stuff. Alright.